Napoleon III. Early nationalism was often idealistic, radical, and liberal. Napoleon Bonaparte's France had already combined national feeling with authoritarian rule. Napoleon's nephew, Louis Napoleon, revived and extended this merger. Although Louis Napoleon Bonaparte had played no part in politics before the French presidential election of December 1848, he managed to gain 3 times as many votes as the 4 other presidential candidates combined. During a time when middle-class and peasant property owners fielded the socialist challenge of urban workers in the chaos of the Revolution, Louis Napoleon promoted a vision of national unity and social progress. He believed that the government should represent the people and help them economically. Napoleon believed that the answer was a strong, even authoritarian national leader who would serve all people, rich and poor. This leader would be linked to each citizen by direct democracy, his sovereignty uncorrupted by politicians and legislative bodies. To many common people who voted for him, Louis Napoleon appeared to be a strong leader and a forward-looking champion of popular interests. Much of Napoleon's appeal was a direct result of his emphasis on government-provided jobs and nationwide economic support. Louis Napoleon was required by Constitution to share power with the National Assembly, which was overwhelmingly conservative. He signed conservative-sponsored bills that greatly increased the role of the Catholic Church in primary and secondary education and deprived many poor people of the right to vote. In 1851, after the Assembly refused to pay Napoleon's personal debts and changed the Constitution so that he could run for a second term, he began to conspire with key army officers, and he illegally dismissed the legislature. After Napoleon seized power, there was resistance in Paris and widespread insurrection in the countryside of southern France, but the army crushed these popular protests. In order to put a stop to the resistance once and for all, Napoleon held a vote. 92% of French people voted to make him president for 10 years. 1 year later, 97% voted to make him hereditary emperor. Napoleon's new government promoted new investment banks and massive railroad construction. It also fostered general economic expansion through an ambitious program of public works, which included rebuilding Paris to improve the urban environment. Until the mid-1860s, Napoleon enjoyed support from France's most dissatisfied group, the urban workers. Tensions continued to decrease. Louis Napoleon granted workers the right to form unions and the right to strike, important economic rights denied by earlier governments. First, political power remained in the hands of the emperor. He alone chose his ministers, who had great freedom of action. At the same time, Louis Napoleon restricted but did not abolish the newly reformed assembly. Members were elected by universal male suffrage every 6 years. People became increasingly skeptical of Napoleon's government. Always sensitive to the public mood, he responded to critics with progressive liberalization. He gave the assembly greater powers and opposition candidates greater freedom. In 1870, Louis Napoleon again granted France a new constitution. This constitution combined a parliamentary regime with a hereditary emperor as chief of state. On the eve of a disastrous war with Prussia, 7.5 million Frenchmen approved the new constitution. Only 1.5 million opposed it. Napoleon III's attempt to reconcile a strong national state with universal male suffrage moved in an increasingly democratic direction.